And to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everybody. Trustees, any questions, comments, suggested changes to the agenda? All good? Okay, well, that's quick. We're going to move right on to you, Superintendent Welch. You're up next.
You already?
Yep.
We have trustees online.
We do not.
Good. And reminder, housekeeping, that without the mics, the owl is the one that's picking our voices up. So you have to project a little further, other than those at the podium. I believe that mic is hot. Is that right, Gary? It is. Okay. And if there's people online having a hard time hearing us, let us know so we can talk a little louder. Okay. 2 weeks ago at the regular full board meeting, one of the pieces of information I submitted with my superintendent report was recommendations to consider this spring. There were 6 recommendations, and what I want to do is throughout this spring, and every chance we have a board meeting, is bring one of these and update the trustees as we move forward. Of those 6, tonight, Mr. McKay is going to step to the podium and work through number 3, that reboundarying the district. More importantly, it's the attendance areas of our district and the proportionality of where our students go to school. I won't take a lot of what you have to say, Mr. McKay, but what I think is important around boundaries is a topic conversation in our district for many years. Particular importance is when East Helena built their high school, and the number of students that left our district going back to East Helena has set our district in an imbalance, if you will. Right now, Helena High sits at nearly 989 students, Capital about 1,300. Consequently, we also have an imbalance in our middle schools where CR has traditionally been very heavy in population, and Helena Middle School hasn't. So CR sitting about 969. Helena Middle School, just a little over 700. And obviously how those balance out is where your attendance area lies within your elementary. Your elementary balances your middle school balances your high school. And so Mr. McKay will talk more in depth about what that looks like. That's the reason why we do the work around the boundaries, so that we have actual numbers across the east and west side of town. People don't like, superintendents and admin teams really shy away from talking about boundaries because they're controversial. But I would argue the fact that we should be looking at our boundaries every 10 years. If we drive around town and you look at where the construction's taking place right now, we have a dynamic neighborhood or community. And in it, we should start adjusting to where we see development happening. Right now, we have a construction project that's going north of Super One. We're paying particular attention to that because we know where those students go to school. We also know that there's apartment complexes going in on the south side of Winco, and additional 300 coming in according to the city. We know that the south interchange is now getting connected from Maverick down into Blue Cross Blue Shield with about 700 acres of potential housing units in there that affects the Smith area. So we can't just sit thinking of that nothing's going to change in our community when we see development happening. So we should be adjusting our boundaries to balance our elementary schools, then which balances our middle schools. Then we have pretty equal numbers across the high schools. Right now, we don't have that, and people are afraid to address it. And I think it's part of the bigger packages of what if we are looking at recommendation 1 and 2, which is the elementary bond and the high school bond. Particular, if we're looking at a new Helena High, which is the recommendation from my office, then we want to know how big to build that building for. And if we don't adjust our boundaries and we're small on one side and big on the other, we're truly not doing the service that we need to for our community. So boundaries do have an effect, a tangible effect in what we're doing in our construction site. So it is the right time. That's why they all come together. Mr. McKay, you're ready to step up there. I will steal some of your thunder. I want people to understand that this is not an overnight decision, right? First of all, this is item for information. There's no decision today. I want to bring it to you in a draft form and let our public hear it. They heard it 2 weeks ago. They'll hear it again today. And then make adjustments to where you think we need to make adjustments. But I think what's important, this is not an overnight decision for everybody to move tomorrow or next year. It's a slow rollout. There's flexibility in the plan, and we still have open enrollment where we can choose where to go to school even when transportation changes. So I just stole all of everything in 5 minutes, Mr. McKay. You ready?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can hear you very well.
Yes.
There you go.
Got it?
That works.
A little better? We're just straight yelling.
You might as well get comfortable. You'll be there for a minute.
All right, that's as loud as it gets. Okay. All right, Mr. Myers, so you scroll up and maybe that map. So the reason why I put it to print, so I make sure I stay on track with what we're talking about. This is a school district map that you had found on the county superintendent website, for example. This pink area is the Helena School District. This slice, this yellow is the East Helena School District. East Helena used to be a K-8 district that sent its 9-12 to us. So now it's a K-12 district. This purple shade is the Canyon Creek School District. It's a K-8 school district that sent their 9-12 students to us for high school. Trustee Walsh is, that's the reason why you're on the board. You're the Canyon Creek representative on our school board. This green area is Wolf Creek. They also send their 9-12 to us if they choose, kids choose. So you'll see that this is like the K-8 exclusive elementary district, has some high school in it, and then these are the surrounding areas. The yellow used to be with us, but when East Helena became independent school district, off of our roll, one grade level at a time. Really, that effect is about 125 kids per grade out of Helena High over 4 years. That's 625 students. That's why Helena High is around 1,000 and why it's not 1,600. Okay, so then this whole presentation, the why for it, is rooted in changing the east-west line. So, just a minute. So I'm calling it the east-west line. The east-west line is in our district. It follows the Missouri River, goes down through Lake Helena, then shoots for Last Chance Gulch and splits Helena High and Capitol. And you'll see or look at it and go, that's really narrow physically on that polygon. And so when I talk about changing the east-west line, it's about moving the line more from where it is now, Missouri, Lake Helena, into Last Chance Gulch, moving it more towards the west so that more kids will attend Helena Middle and Helena High. Now the why. So I just kind of want to give perspective because I meant by the east-west lines. So why would we shift the east-west line? Reason to make the shift is to ensure that equal student educational opportunities remain an option at each high school and middle school. If we don't make the change, students on one side of town will have more class opportunities than the other side of town, and we're experiencing that now. Also, if we travel our program staff or staff to different sites, we lose their time with children, which is a significant loss. So that's not preferred. It's preferred to have more equalized sizes in our middle school and high school. I'll get into that a little bit more. But our budget challenges and human resource constraints require us to maximize the use of our resources to ensure educational opportunities exist for all students in our schools. That's why we need to shift the east-west line to balance high school and middle school enrollments to maintain opportunities. The kind of don't worry is this is a gradual transition. This won't start right away. This will begin for the 26-27 school year. That's not next year, it's the year after. Students may choose to stay in the school they're currently in. That's fine. This is a change in transportation routes. Another example of this is that, I struggle to say this, but like our current fifth grade class, kids we have in 24-25, they'll go to the middle school they're expecting to go to now. So then we're not changing that feeder pattern right now. Yeah, we're not trying to do that. We'll also have a sibling rule, and that's a term we've come up with, Rex, others, about families with children that have a sibling that went through, let's just say, well, this is a true story. I married a Bengal and she wanted our kids to go to the Bengal side no matter where we lived. And so then if your kids went to the Bruin side and you want your kid to stay a Bruin, then we have an in-district boundary process and now a rule with this transition where you'll be able to stay a Bruin through CR and Capital High if you choose. The transportation route will change from those areas, but there's also going to be some courtesy stops. What you don't know in our district is we have a lot of routes that transcend different boundaries in our district. So in our district, that's fine. You just can't send our buses into another school's district. So in our boundary, we do lots of those things to get kids to and from. In district boundary exception process has been in place for many years and it will continue. That's what we've utilized for children that wanted to go to one middle school. Literally, they put in a boundary request. If there's capacity in that school, it's granted. So then it's literally that simple. Also note, there's going to be a slide in here in November. There's a presentation to the board about our student enrollment. Our student enrollment and in our county, you know, Helena may be physically growing with structures, but it's not growing with student enrollment. Lewis and Clark County is not growing. It's not projected to grow in enrollment by the Department of Commerce. It's out to 2040, as far as they go, they say we've already experienced our peak of students and we're not going to see any more than 800 students in our county as we go. Other counties in Montana are experiencing something else, but that's the department research that I'm looking at. Somebody else has something different, show it to me, but that's really vetted resources that's on a, you know, they're paid to do that. Also suggest that we continue regular boundary maintenance in our district. This is something that we have to do. Next slide. Next. So this is, I didn't really want to go over this presentation again, but this is, scroll down a little farther, Gary. This is the 5-year-old enrollments. What I wanted to show there is literally, this is about where we are right now. We've peaked in our kindergarten enrollment. 5-year-olds is kindergarten. It's going to dip, and then it's going to stay below 800 in our district. So this is about maintaining like where our populations go. But we're not growing in school age children. We're essentially declining right now. Okay. Next slide, Gary. It's kind of just a reminder of back to the boundary conversation. What I want to talk about next is people think that, I've been thinking about this for years, and this is kind of kudos to Rex. It's just that it hasn't been the timing or the courage for a superintendent to bring this before the board. Tell them. Boundaries are tough. Buildings, boundaries, budgets, bonds. All the B's. They're tough things. But if we were to take a school and move it solely from the west side to the east side, pick any of the schools near that boundary. Jim Darcy's technically on the edge. It's kind of out on its own in the west. Okay, Rossiter, Fort Georgians, Broadwater, Hawthorne, Kessler. You move one of those schools all the way over to the east and then you create a high school imbalance. Meaning that your high schools will still be disparate in their size. So then what I'm talking about in this proposal is split attendance areas. Fifth graders that will go to fifth grade in an elementary school and then go to a different middle school. It's what a lot of communities have to do. We also have our three largest schools on the west side. Call them 4-3 schools. 4-3 means 4 kindergartens, first grades, 4 second grades, 3 third grades, 3 fourth grades, 3 fifth grades. So then you can't move those big schools over to the east. That wouldn't work. So it would kind of violate the thing we're trying to achieve, which is equal educational opportunities. So that's what we don't want to do. We also don't want to have like a school's attendance area. This is like when we talked about Jim Darcy back in the day. We knew that Jim Darcy's mass population was north of Lincoln Road. It's kind of common knowledge. But you can't have this boundary area be a sector where the school doesn't live in. That makes sense. So that would not be good. So then that's why we're talking about slicing pieces off of this east-west line and sending it to the east and gradual over time. So this isn't sending kids all over the place. It's kind of like people's worst fear. This is basically taking the edges off and straightening them out a little bit and making a new east-west line that'll incorporate more that heads to the east side. Okay, so now we'll go to the next map. And part of this is wrong. That's why it's good that it's a draft a little farther down.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, I know you can't see it. It's more just a size comparison. But this blue line is Helena High and East Helena combined. The blue show. This is Capital High CR. Okay, so East Helena's boundary, we don't go to Canyon Ferry. We kind of head out towards the regulating reservoir. It angles off, goes north of the regulating reservoir, and then angles out towards the town of York. So this piece over here is not us. That means that Helena High's split is more, it's long, skinny oval. And then here's CR Anderson Capital High. Because it includes Canyon Creek, Wood Creek, and it includes, I would say, most of Helena right now. So then we got to slice some corners off to make the boundaries equitable so that we have equal opportunities for our high school kids and middle school kids. So now I'll get into specifics. Can't see that. I know. Apologize for that, but it's really a talking point for me. So sector 1, not to be, sorry, sector 7 with transplanters. You know, my brain's over, but that's okay. Make a good old thing. All right, not making light of this, but it's section 1. This is the 4 Georgians' current boundary map. What I'm looking at here is worked with Drew. He's our transportation director. He literally gave us all the dispersion of where kids live and what grades they are in all of our areas next to that line, so that we could figure out how many kids this was and what if we changed them, what would it do over time? Okay, so some of these boundary requests are to help elementary schools in their programming, and some of these are to help the east-west, which is the middle school and high school. So I'll talk about the first one. This is the Treasure State Acres area. This vertical line here is Montana Avenue. This darker line is the interstate. So this greenish color is Treasure State. The whole, I guess, purple, pinkish, and greenish is all 4 Georgians. You'll see that this area is the only area east of Montana that goes to 4 Georgians now. 4 Georgians is that's actually one of our biggest elementaries. Jim Darcy and 4 Georgians are our biggest. So what I want to do is, send this neighborhood these kids to Rossiter, which is right up here, up and around the corner to the right. The 10 Mile Creek Estates neighborhood, which is adjacent to it, already goes there. Rossiter has the capacity to handle, easily take this neighborhood. It's getting to where it's a 2-section elementary school and it's on the kindergarten, it should be a 4-section elementary school. And then we're traveling these kids into Fort Georgians. But we can send them right around the corner to Rossiter and help Rossiter. Helping Rossiter helps Fort Georgians have opportunity within its school to expand early literacy, 4-year-old education opportunities. We're getting Fort Georgians is a densely, housed school, has a lot of housing in its area. It's getting a lot of kids that are eligible for that 4-year-old program. But we don't have a site for them. But if we change the Treasure State over time to go to Rossiter, then we'll create capacity in Fort Georgians to either handle more enrollment there or to offer new programming to our community, like 4-year-old education, where they choose us as opposed to maybe choosing a nearby school district that has room. We want to be able to serve that. So then this is sector 1. It would move it over. That change would be about 12 students per grade level would change to Rossiter over time. They would still go to Capital and CR Anderson. So then that's an elementary only change. Creates opportunity for Georgians. This, moving on, this is where the Tree Streets are. The Tree Streets neighborhood kind of extends from, there's Custer, there's the railroad tracks, here's Montana, there's like McHugh is one of the north-south roads. So the Tree Street neighborhood's been an interesting one over time. I believe, Barb, it used to be part of the Lincoln School area. And when Lincoln closed in 1999 or something, these kids, this used to go to Lincoln. They ended up needing to go to Fort Georgians. They still would go to Fort Georgians on this plan, but the or part, these kids used to choose between HMS and CR right now, just like they choose between Capital and Helena High. But what I need to do is change this to a Helena Middle School, Helena High feeder pattern. So instead of changing, it's currently an or, want to change it to need to go to HMS and Helena High in that area. That change is about 10 students per grade level. No, remember how I did the math. It's 30 change in middle school, but it's 5 per grade level of students in this area right now. Okay, so that is a example of shifting the line where that now will become part of the east. Okay, next one. The third boundary.
Go to high school though, and,
Sure, back up a second.
all right,
What was your question?
that mean, but did you say the high school kids, age group still going to several times?
No,
They would today,
they would go, so it's currently an or, it's an HMS or CR. So that means it's a or CHS or Helena High. It needs to shift to HMS and Helena High. Remember, if they historically went that way with our sibling rule, thanks for bringing up, Phyllis, is that that was your one question, by the way.
oh, no, I never.
No, okay. Phyllis, the limit on your questions? I'm all right.
No,
Okay, anyways, moving on, with the sibling rule, if the kids historically went west, they can go west. The transportation, who knows if they're even using transportation there, but we won't be sending transportation that way. Okay. If there's courtesy route, they can take it, that kind of thing. This one, this is the third one, third 5. This is the north and east Mount Helena addresses south of Euclid. So this is Hawthorne School neighborhood. So the Hawthorne School neighborhood would be an example of a split attendance area also with this proposal. So currently Hawthorne attends Hawthorne, C.R. Anderson, CHS. The east-west line is right here. And so what we want to do is carve off part of it to go west and part of it to go east. So this section would go to C.R. Anderson. C.R. Anderson physically sits in this section. This is the example of why people ask, well, why don't you just send the whole neighborhood over to Helena Middle School? Well, I can't do that. I don't feel good about doing that when C.R. Anderson sits right in that area and then they can't go to it. But we need to draw a line there, just like we need to draw a line through the district to get more kids to the east. So that line is Grant Street. It's a couple blocks. I'm using east and west, but that's north and easterly and south and westerly, that kind of a line. But it's basically Grant Street through Mount Helena is where they'll go. That change would be 16 students per day. Okay, that would go east. Then coincidentally, and this is the logic of it, this line is the same line that we use if Hawthorne should close. The board recommends, decides to close Hawthorne, then these kids here in this bluish sector will go to Kessler, and these kids that live in this area will go to Central. Okay, and that's what'll happen. The 50 or some kids that are out of the boundary for Hawthorne, we have enough capacity in our elementary schools to undo the overflows. So we have kids overflowed out of Fort Georgians, for example. They get to go back to Fort Georgians. If they didn't want to go to Fort Georgians, they would work with me on the in-district boundary request process. If they wanted to go to one of their the other elementary schools, they make that known, and then we work with them to see where our space is. But this is how, like, the boundaries are not, they're not directly causal to anything. This change can happen with or without Hawthorne changes, but you have to integrate the plan between the two. So then you can't have a plan without thinking of where all the kids are. So then there is a plan for where all the kids are. So this is an example, another example of a split neighborhood along that line. So the new line would come right here and then come over and then head towards, I guess you'd say, Lake Helena, if you will. Okay, that's section 3. Next one, fourth one. It's got a lot of colors. This is this whole thing is Jim Darcy's map. Okay, so Jim Darcy lives over in this area. This is Lincoln Road here, interstate. Jim Darcy's in this section. The black sector, the blue sector, and the red sector, kind of where we did boundary studies, if you will, or where, the kids would be to kind of draw the lines. So then this would be an example of a split. No, that's not true. This is the example of an elementary change going to Helena High. This portion right here, the blue side, this is Ferry Street. It's on an S turn where there's some blue silos, little farm. Ferry Street runs north and south. The west side will stay with Jim Darcy, C.R. Anderson, Capital I. East side will change to Warren, Helena Middle School, Helena High. And then that kind of is why we're not following the Missouri River anymore for a boundary line. We're gonna need to move the line into the west. And so then that change would be eight kids a grade level. Wow. you have to do some averaging because, you know, you have some years you'll have 6 of a grade level, some years you'll have 12 of a grade level, that kind of thing. So then the why here is really the part where Jim Darcy is a neighborhood now that has a lot of housing. It'll continue to fill. The part where we would love to have some ELTI and 4-year-old programming in the North Valley is really important to us. And I think it'd be an asset to the community school out there for to have that here. Also, when Rossiter grows, we can have, instead of a density of ELTI at Rossiter, that's how we can maintain that enrollment, we'll shift into balance between having some at Chuck Darcy, some at Rossiter, some at Fort Georgians. So it allows an educational opportunity there. So there, this neighborhood would cross the causeway. We'd already drive buses out this direction, and that's our turnaround spot. So those turnaround spots are already in existence.
Josh, there's flexibility. If students and their brothers and sisters have already been Jim Darcy, then they can continue that track, right? The flexibility in that.
Right, so that's like the, I was a Bruin, but I did migrate, so it's possible. I mean, it's not a dream, but you know how it's really a thing in our town, but I was a Bruin. It's important to stay on that side. You'll be allowed to do that, to follow your feeder pattern of your sibling, direct sibling, that kind of thing. And you're welcome to catch a courtesy bus route if it exists. The busing system is really simple out here. I mean, I'll try not to oversimplify it, but people have to, we don't drive a bus into the boonies up here by Black Sand. People have to get their kids to a collection center. And so then they've always gotten them to a collection center, and that's what will happen in this plan if they want to catch that courtesy route or not. Kids who don't have siblings, we just got to check their in-district boundary requests and see if there's space. But I literally got to know what school sizes are going to be to be able to plan educational opportunities. This is literally about keeping classes, advanced classes, those kinds of things are all kiddos. Talk to teachers on how many preparations they have. They call it preps. That means how many different classes do they have in the day. At a small school, to have all the things, worked in a small school and small schools, they got to do many more classes to offer those things than a school with a bigger population where they only have 1 or 2 preps. A smaller school has to have 4. That is not the right way to go. So we need to have a balance, and then we need to manage our courses. Middle school team wise, I can talk about that. Actually, I'll save that for a second. Let's just do number 5. So the 5th and last one, this is an example of looking forward. This is Bryant's neighborhood, or boundary, I should say. Here's the interstate. Bryant School lives right near. This is Custer. People don't really realize that Lowe's, that new subdivision that's north of Alberta King, Lowe's, some other stuff. Super one's in red, but these 2 sectors are Bryant. It's an east side school and it would go east, so it's not a change on the high school side or the middle school side. But for us, it makes more sense to send these kids if they start to come. There's 3 now that live in that Kings Crossing area. But if they start to experience population, we'll send them to Rossiter up the frontage road to hang a left. Well, like we do in Pleasant Valley, which is along that frontage road. So then that'll feed Rossiter. So we don't have kids there now, but we will one day. So it will change Rossiter. They'll go to Rossiter, but then they'll still go to Helena Middle and Helena High. So it's another split neighborhood. But it's changing that for the sake of the elementary. Okay. Go down. Maybe go back up to pull one more up. I want to talk about one more thing with a map. Let's go. I don't know how far it is. Farther than that. Farther than let's try this one. So this area is where Winco is. And then, we have projected development in this area, which is currently Bryant. This is why we'll need to maintain our boundaries over the years. If those start to hold kids, let's say, there's not a lot of children that live in this neighborhood. It's kind of got a lot of, I'd say, industry in this area. Yes, some housing, but a lot of industry, not a lot of children. They go to Bryant. But if this were to get really big, I would have some room here at Fort Georgians maybe, or we'll have to make decisions on what we do. And we just don't know, but that's 7 years from now, somebody will be sitting there going, we need to adjust our boundary line a little bit more. And so I'm a fan of micro adjustments or little pieces and moving over rather than whole schools, because our whole school numbers just don't add up to keep them the same. We have different size schools. So I want to talk about that. Next one, I'm gonna go over this slide. This would be that chart here, bigger chart. So this is kind of a summary chart of what would happen to school populations if we make these shifts. Okay, doesn't have the capacity amount yet. And that's actually intentional. We'll start talking about capacities and probably the spring week after spring break. Talk about it a lot. But a classic 2-2 school can hold 292 kids, like Kessler. Okay, it's a 235 right now. I think that's what it says. Yeah. So, and then, we know Central is built out to hold over more than 400 kids. Okay. What I'm really trying to get to in this east-west line is the middle school and the high school. I want to create capacity for 4th grade, 4-year-old education in different regions in our elementary, so that this plan would achieve that. Also, this plan would balance more our middle schools. What this does, got 795 at Helena Middle, 878 at CR. Currently CR Anderson's about 968. Helena Middle's at 705. That 705, when this principal at Helena Middle, Bruce was the principal at CR Anderson, talk about ideal team size. Ideal team size is when you can build a team of teachers that the kids can have a smaller learning community inside their middle school, and you have one of each type of teacher on that team: English, math, social studies, science, your rotation teacher, all part of a team. 5 adults, 1 team. Helena Middle has been forced to do a team and a half for years. So it always has a solid team and then bits and pieces. So then literally you'll have a teacher who's a science educator that'll teach 6th grade science and 7th grade science. But then they don't get to participate in the 6th or 7th grade team depending on the day, because that team's doing that thing and they got something else they got to do. So then that's kind of where our budget's driven us, where we can't afford to have like anything extra in our world. So then we change our enrollment, we can shift our teaching staff to make teams that are more balanced in those schools. Helps Helena Middle. CR Anderson's always been a floating partial team school as well, which I imagine they'll need to do a little of, but not a lot of. Meaning 350 in a grade is really problematic for CR Anderson. It's like a 2.5 team per grade level school. Rather be that 2 team or a plannable team structure and not float all of that through all the time and change it up. So that really helps the middle school get back to a team concept, which helps your elementary kiddo transition to a smaller school within a school at the middle level. Really important. High schools, these won't be perfect, but they'll be much closer. We're looking at 1171 and 1122 over time. That means that we can make shifts and say, yeah, we're going to have the same kinds of advanced classes at both schools. We're getting into the area of disparity about what we can do, what can we afford, and what we can make work. We didn't used to have to do that. We didn't have to do that when the big argument is, why didn't we, or people come up to us and say, why didn't you do it when Helena High was 1,800 and Capitol High was 1,300? Well, I worked here when it was 1,800. And I know what it's like to push a cart every year for every class I taught and be in a different room for every class I taught. I literally got to pick my cart in those years. So then we made it work and it was great, but it wasn't ideal. So then we're talking about teachers being able to have their own classroom, a classroom to prepare instruction in, set out their lab, to leave it up. We would have science teachers that have to set up lab, take it down because they were rotating in those days. It wasn't healthy and easy. It wasn't the way to go. And we didn't have the imbalance of classes then either. It's just that Helena High didn't offer more than Capitol High. We offered the same. We just had less teachers in classrooms doing it. So we need to get our schools more balanced, middle and high schools, and then use our elementary district and change it around some so we can bring in four-year-old education to different regions. Okay, next slide. This one's even worse than one of the ones before. It's because I might have drawn on it, scanned it. Okay, I gotta see it all though, Gary. So then, this is the east-west line. Right here. Remember, this chart has the old when East Helena was with us in Helena High. But we're talking about a section north of Lake Helena shifting to the east. Believe me, if you can see it, there's that little teeny tree street subdivision. It's like a black dot. It will change to the east. And then it's a good idea. Zoom. So that one, and then this is the east sector north of Mount Helena, south of Euclid, shifting east. So we're talking about a micro adjustment to our east-west line that'll have big impacts for being able to offer equitable, equal opportunities in the middle school and high school in the long run. And so then change it to the end. The paragraphs. And that's just a repeat of the beginning. On the why, it's about having equal opportunities in our schools for kids over time. The how is to slice off corners and send them into the east. It's not shipping everybody around town. It's about gradually shifting their neighborhood school to the east for them. And then we have transportation delay start. We'll have sibling rules. We'll have in-district boundary process. So, Mr. Wells. Questions?
Just a question, so I know where we are.
You might speak pretty loud.
Sorry.
Like,
Just so I understand where we are in the process, like this isn't even an item for information. This was just kind of a draft overview, so we kind of had some sense of where things could be headed. It'll come back around to being item for information and then become an action.
So it's item for information, not an item for action. You can see I got more excited the more I talked because for me, this is about ensuring that kids in our schools have programs. And it's like been a long want by some in our school district. I understand some won't want this, but then the part where all of our kids deserve an equal opportunity to have classes, that's my excitement, my passion to make it happen. And I realize adjustments may come, whatever, but yeah, this is our first blush across this, and then know that there'll be like public engagement through the board process. Comment, so comment with items for action. All of those things are designed to have conversation around driving where our next steps are. Okay.
So this is kind of, I just we haven't redistricted in our district since the eighties.
Was the last time we redistricted?
The eighties?
1980 each?
Yeah. If it's been so long, it's hard to find.
And I just did a little digging while you were talking, gosh, and I mean, every other double A, it was like 2019. And I looked at just Billings, for example, because I know that community having grown up there, and I'd never heard of one elementary school. Like all of our elementaries always went to the same road, but we don't have to make it, so that makes sense. And I just think what you described was very common. That the neighbor, like, you'd all go to one elementary school and then some people would go to a different middle school. But even within your elementary school, they would split out and go to different middle schools. I've never heard that before, but I don't think it's unfair at all, actually. Especially, it's easier to change boundaries than it is to get bonds passed, especially now.
From my experience in Billings is that I went to a middle school that split to high schools.
Yeah.
So then with odd numbers in schools, kids transition to different places. So then it was kind of an expected norm at that level. But it's kind of what do you have in your community and where are they located and where are the numbers going to be? So that every community is going to be a little bit different in utilizing its space.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate the local one, but thank you.
I didn't count on my fingers as you were speaking, but how many early literacy opportunities are created by thinking about these boundaries?
So this coming fall, we hope to run 5 or more classrooms. So then, like with our stable enrollment, declining enrollment, whatever it is, it's right around one number, average high and low around a common number. This is our chance to increase in grade level. So with early literacy, targeted intervention, and if they expand the legislature a little bit more to include some of those peers, then we'll be able to grow those programs and start 4-year-old education. But we're at literally 3 sections now. We can have 5 next year, maybe 6. And so then we're planning those locations now, and it's according to our open spaces. Then you can design where in the area, if you have space, whereas Fort Georgians, they can't get it in there right now, even though I might have a density of the children that are from that neighborhood that they need to go there. They can't go there with that. So then they'll still get an opportunity, but it's not near. So I'd like to create capacity in that, but it's also one of our most stable, reoccurring, large student populations. Like even over the years, it's been a solid 4-3 uninterrupted forever. Like as long as I know, it's even been bigger than that. I think Mr. Myers used to teach a combo class. It felt like in a closet, but they had uneven grade levels then when we had that opportunity. But if we plan ahead, we can get some of those opportunities in schools near where people live.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that seems like a
It's a
great
way
thing
for us to
hold
increase
in
our
thing.
enrollment. It's funded education.
Well, and to make that available in a variety of different locations.
Yeah.
Any further, vote, comments or questions? So just, okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I was asking trustees if they had any questions for you.
Mr. Hinduin's now, you want to do this over? The,
Original.
it's one thing that we're taking the opportunity to use our work session to keep the communication lines open, right? So we know that working through a school system and communications that we meet twice a month. And so we will take, this really is all about Mr. Kessler and Helena High and the great work they're doing. But we did take this time and the amount of time that it took for us to get this information out. 2 weeks ago was one of the recommendations for the attendance areas to change within our district. That causes, without any backlog or back information around what that means, it initiates fear. And so I want to make sure that we continue to update our public, our trustees, so that you can understand what it looks like as we move forward. So every time that we have an opportunity, we'll bring a recommendation for an update. Fair enough? All right,
Thank you.
Mr. And lastly, Mr. McCabe, that's really great work. Thanks.
you.
Yep. Nope, that was it. Yes.
Okay. All right, superintendent report is concluded. We're gonna move to general public comment. This is the time for comment on public matters that are not on the agenda. Public matters do not include any pending legal matters, private personal issues, or private system issues. Please do not attempt to address such issues at this time or you'll be ruled out of order. Just a reminder that the board cannot enter into a discussion during general public comment. Is there anyone who would like to give general public comment?
Oh, no, you go ahead. I'm not saying anything. I can.
And some of you have already given comment before, but if you could state your name and spell it, so Candace can enter it properly to the record. And then also let us know your connection to the school district, parents, volunteer, whatever, grandmother, whatever it happens to be.
I've already given them my name. We talked before the session.
Okay, are you good, Candace?
Yes.
Great. Chair.
I am Carrie Jones. I'm a business owner, parent of Poplar and concerned community member. So I am speaking because I have now finally managed to crunch data for 2 months. So, Mr. Wiltz has brought some proposals forward to you and he said that you will make details of those proposals available.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, but we can't hear you very well. Maybe just talk a little louder. I don't know if that's on.
Is it still on? Can you hear me? Nope, it's not on.
Yeah.
It's random purple radiation.
And if you need to start over, whatever you need to do, I am sorry for that interruption.
That's okay. I appreciate you being able to tell me because I can hear my own voice.
Oh, is it, did the battery die in the microphone?
Well, maybe I'll have to get loud.
There, we can hear
That's
you
probably-
now.
I'm not real. I'll pull my father's teacher voice out. I am a business owner, a concerned community member, and a parent at Hawthorne. Mr. Wells has brought a series of proposals forth, and as he has noted, he's not really brought a lot of details, which does propagate here. So I've spent the last 2 months crunching numbers from publicly available data sources. I have these data sources, which I am happy to give a listing to anybody if you want to check my map. I'd really appreciate that. The details that you're going to show about closing our financial stuff about closing Hawthorne is going to be released 2 days before our next meeting, which is frankly ridiculous. That is something you have said because school funding is extremely complicated. It's taken me 2 months. 2 days is not enough to understand something or make a rational decision. So I'd love to see the data beforehand, but since you haven't given it to us, I'm going to give you my financial data so that the community can hear it and everybody else can go check my numbers. So I did want to know, is closing Hawthorne the right decision? Are you going to save money? Let's talk about it. The first thing is the 4.6 million in deferred maintenance, which are, let's see, I'm ready to go. Our facilities person mentioned in our last meeting. There is the facility cost, which according to the 2022-2023 budget that I obtained from another person through a Freedom of Information Act, is about $150,000 a year for the facility only. For the staff salaries, they are 1.2 million. That includes all of the workers' comp and the administrative stuff, which has gone down since 2022-23 because we have a half-time administrator. When you start adding all that up, it looks like a nice round number of 6 million that you will save by closing the Hawthorne. That seems like a pretty plausible reason to close a school. However, let's talk about those numbers a little bit. That 4.6 million of deferred maintenance is something that has been deferred and has not been addressed in a very long time, and frankly, isn't going to be addressed in the next, I don't know how long, but not very, a very long time. It's not really looking for it. Our facilities director is doing the best he can with what he's been given, but there's just not that kind of money. So we're down from 6 million to 1.6 million. That's a pretty nice number. I believe that Mr. Welch can squeeze that amount of money out of closing the school, because 1.2 million of that is salaries. If he does not renew any contracts, does not offer any new contracts, gets rid of all the paras, gets rid of all the part-time paras, the speech therapists, he'll save that 1.2 million. But there's a little snag there, which is that 6 of those people are tenured and you have to continue operating on contracts. So that kind of cuts down your space there. So instead, what I expect will be done is that you will be firing or non-renewing contracts with non-tenured staff at other schools and then moving the tenured staff into those spaces. As far as where the children go, I could not find any savings unless you split the whole community and dribble a kid here and then dribble there. I'll try and wrap it up shortly. There's 2 ways you can do that. You can put a kid here and a kid there. You'll split families, you'll split friend groups. You can try and put some of them in Central, Broadwater or Kessler. That will send a wave through the district of displacement, which will probably make the rest of the district very upset. Apologize, my phone is screwing myself wrong. So 1.6 million, let's go with that. It's a generous estimate. The problem with it is that when you say, I'm going to mispronounce your name, I'm sorry, Theus.
Yeah.
Theus said at your last meeting that if your levy fails, it would be 2.4 million in the hole. Right now, the community, which I am part of, will try and vote for your levy. It's really important. But people are angry and hurt, and they don't know what's coming on. They're afraid. They don't know what's happening to their kids. What's going to happen is that levy is going to fail, and that 1.6 million isn't going to make up for the 2.4 million you're going to lose. So I do have data on that if you would like it. I'm happy to bring it to you. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Hello, my name is Eleanor Blitzer, Blitzer. Thank you to the board for listening to our concerns. I am a parent of 2 Hawthorne students. And first, I just wanted to say that I agree with all of my neighbors, friends, and fellow parents that have already stated in many meetings why it is so short-sighted and detrimental to Liz Hawthorne. This decision will have lasting negative impacts on our children, our community, and will degrade the trust that we have in the running of our public schools. Second, assuming the board truly believes that this is the only way forward, I want to address the timeline and its impact on families. I am the parent of an anxious and sensitive 7-year-old who regularly has to cry over the idea of the school closing. So as a concerned parent, I'm trying to figure out the best practices for a permanent school closure. Looking at school closures in mid-sized districts nationwide, it's almost unheard of for a school to close over the summer. So the earliest this vote could happen was June 9th, which is after the school ends. Best practices suggest that the schools should be given ample time to transition students, staff, and families to new environments. Closing Hawthorne with such a short notice leaves no time for final goodbyes or transition planning for our children. Especially hurt by this timeline is our special needs students. If the decision to close the school is made after June 9th, again, there'll be no time for tours of these schools. There'll be no closing ceremony in Hawthorne. I heard a lot this afternoon about not worrying about redistricting because this will be a gradual change. And I haven't heard any of this language around what's happening with Hawthorne. The recommendation to close a beloved neighborhood school is terribly misguided. And the recommendation to close Hawthorne over the summer will not provide the necessary transition support for families, students, and staff. And I urge the board to reconsider both the decision and the rush timeline, assuring that if closure is inevitable, it is handled with care, respect, and sufficient time for our children and community to adjust. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. Hello again.
My name is Catherine Dunkelberger. I'll spell that, even though it's really long. Okay, so Dunkelberger. and I'm here this afternoon to discuss Hawthorne and the Helena community. I am a Hawthorne parent and employee. Hawthorne is my neighborhood school, and Helena is my home. When my husband and I moved to Helena 13 years ago, we knew we wanted to start a family, and living near a neighborhood school was essential in where we chose to buy our home. I'm from Bozeman, and when we were considering to move to Helena, I was told Helena had great schools at the time, and Helena was mentioned to us on multiple occasions as somewhere we would be lucky to send our kids to Hawthorne. In part, we chose to move to Helena for Hawthorne, and I am not alone in this. Many families choose to return to their hometown to raise their families due to their deep ties they feel to the community. Closing Hawthorne would have an impact on Helena's growth for decades to come. When you strip away the things we admire and seek in a quality education for our children, you are impacting the return of future generations. You're impacting the growth of Helena itself. Closing Hawthorne would be a very short-sighted move. Closing neighborhood schools to move towards big box schools is going to lose the district students now and moving forward. The choices made by this board in no little way impact the future of Helena on a scale that cannot be measured. However, you can measure the current loss of students the district has and will continue to see if you move in the direction you are heading. I know many families that have already left our district to seek education in East Helena, Montana City, Clancy, and private schools because they want smaller class sizes and a neighborhood feel. When is enough enough? When do we stop blaming low enrollment on the community and recognize that the true blame for our decrease in enrollment lies with the Helena School District itself? Also, let's talk about the upcoming bonds. Closing Hawthorne will absolutely be a huge blow to the district's chances of passing bonds. If you don't think that each of those students you're looking to displace don't have grandparents, aunts, uncles, close family friends in our entire Helena community that will vote and make their choices come spring and fall based on these decisions being made, you are sorely mistaken. The voting impacts will reach far and wide. The community of Helena is upset, and they are not being quiet about it. We are upset with how this is being handled, upset with how it's being presented to the public, and upset with the timeline and the lack of transparency. And we're upset that a proposal was even made with no supporting information or plan for the future of the students and staff. So I ask that you choose to keep Hawthorne open, make its boundary wider, and give us the opportunity to thrive as the amazing, beloved neighborhood school it has always been and will continue to be. Consider moving one of these Kinder Sprouts programs there. We have a bunch coming up. They're already hiring for them. They posted 3 new Kinder Sprouts teacher enrollments. So where are these kids going to go once they get into kindergarten, K through 5? Let's plan for the future. Let's plan for the future of Helena that the community wants and supports. The 2017 elementary school bond ran by Superintendent Jack Cox preserved neighborhood schools. That bond resulted in a 74% approval rating. The public knew that Superintendent Cox had the students' best interest at heart. Helena will vote for the future they want to see and the district they trust. And this is not it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public. Further public comment. Thank you very much. Oh, online comments?
Don't see any hands raised. No one seems to be asking.
Thank you. All right, the prize presentation will be Principal Brian Kessler tell about what's going on at Helena High.
We have security here. Brian, I don't think that mic's working, so you just have to project.
Well, we'll project. I'll have to channel my inner PE teacher, yelling across the room on that piece. So, welcome. We appreciate you guys coming and stopping by Helena High today. Not that this building is the oldest school in the state. Well, it might feel like it or look like it in some instances. This is Helena High is the oldest school in the state of Montana. And with that has come a lot of tradition. And we are very proud of the tradition that we hold here at Helena High. Walking around the few times on the tours that we've been able to give recently, people have mentioned, there's just a feel here. And some of that might be the stories about Phyllis when she was, in the school and walking around. But there really are a lot of people and a lot of famous people. People have gone on to do amazing things that have walked these halls and done amazing things. And when we talk about being a Bengal, what we look at with that success too, and trying to measure some of that is the people that come back. over 25% of our staff are Helena High grads in this building. 10% of our staff went to Capitol High School and found their way over here. And so being part of Helena and being part of something special and something that means something, I think that's one way for us to measure that and look at that. And we're proud of that fact, that people want to come back and be part of this amazing school. So to kind of start, just to get into some of this stuff, I'm not going to read obviously everything to you, but try and highlight some of the important pieces that we want to talk about today. We'll start with the demographics. As we've talked about, it's no secret, we are a smaller school right now than we have been in the past. And we see it, we feel it, and it is something that we appreciate looking at, that redistricting and rebounding to try and even out. So we do understand some of that programming that comes with that student count with that. Some of our other important numbers, as you look at our school, are free and reduced. We're 51% free and reduced. So the population that we are serving it's very diverse with that. And one of the bigger numbers, when you look at the McKinney-Vento, so those are kids who are identified as homeless. We have the largest amount of homeless students in the district at one school with 55 here at Helena. And that, in large part, with that identification is a testament to our counselors and our teachers we have, like in our transitions classes and some of our mentoring classes, and recognizing that we have that population and trying to make sure we give those kids what they need and help them live and make it through this time in their life. Another key thing we wanted to point out is our participation in activities for the spring. We haven't calculated for the full year yet, but looking solely at MHSA activities, a quarter of our kids are participating in a spring sport. We have almost 100 kids on both our girls and boys track teams individually. Our tennis team has just about 50 kids. In softball, we're sitting right about 25, 26. When we compare that, we're the second smallest AA now as a school. We have more kids out for sports than a Billings West, who has nearly 3 times the amount of kids that we do. So we believe in this community aspect and trying to build what we're trying to build within that. And we're doing a great job with what we're doing. Again, being smaller in stature, this hasn't stopped us from getting awards and from our kids excelling in what they're trying to do. This year we had 2 national merit finalists. You've met them, and one of our presidential scholars, our thespian troupe. Those of you that went on the tour, you were able to hear them practicing for Legally Blonde Junior, which is coming up here at the end of April, which I look forward to. They continue to be an award-winning group. Our boys cross country team brought home the silver trophy. We just a couple weekends ago brought home the 3rd place trophy in boys basketball. One that didn't make the list because it just happened this past weekend, but we are 6 time in a row champions for mock trial. We had that. 2 of our teams competed against each other for the state championship this last weekend. And so things are going pretty well in that area. And we're excelling in a lot of those pieces. Graduation rate, obviously something that we know we can improve, and it's something that's always on our mind. 85% is not horrible, but we'd like to get over that 90% range and build that as well. But when you look at comparing to the AA's, which is maybe a sickness that we have, that we like to compare ourselves to each other all the time, but it's a good measuring stick. We fall 5th in the AA's right now for graduation rate, 2nd amongst Title I schools. The one Title I school that beat us is Gallatin High School, which I really don't consider a Title I school. They have the numbers in Bozeman to have that, and so one school has to be designated, and Gallatin is it. So I say, forget them. We are the best when it comes to that. And then remediation rates. We'll talk a little bit about ACT scores on one of our panels, and that's something we measure ourselves against the rest of the state, the nation, other schools. But that's one snapshot. with that test. And I think that's an important piece to remember. And so when you look at the bigger picture of things, one of the key data points that I think really shows that whole K-13 or K-12, K-13. Well, yeah, we keep them an extra. But when you look at
Your seniors.
yeah, that entire what the skills that they build the entire time when they're in our schools, and then they go on to college or they go take at least some classes at that next level. 2.6% of our kids going to college have to take a remedial class, so like an intro algebra type class, and only 1.3% have to take a college ready class. That you just really don't ever see those numbers. We're kicking butt across the state with that, and to me that speaks more to what our teachers are doing and the skills that our teachers and our kids are learning than maybe some of those ACT scores, even though we're doing great in the ACT as well. That to me is something that I think we need to celebrate, continue to celebrate and demonstrate with as we go on. So moving on to building communities. So that is the center of, if you have the whole edge aspect of it. As we talk about community, and as we talk about building community, when you look at like our free and reduced numbers, and you look at the importance that Helena High has had for this community, one of my goals this year, and the goal as a school, has to kind of reinvigorate that approach to what we're doing with that, and how we are bringing forth opportunities for families to come, families to feel accepted, and to feel as if we are working with them. It's no secret, right, that public education is under a microscope right now. And to me, there's no better way to show what we actually are doing than to bring it here and see in person what's going on. And so we've tried to focus on that with our family engagement this year. Some of the things we've done have gone really well. Some of the things we've had 5 people show up to. And, you just kind of learn and you live, and we'll try again with that. And I guess 5 people are better than 0 people on having people approach that. So we'll take all those as wins. But looking at family engagement, that's one of our action plan goals this year. And really trying to focus in on, again, how do we make families feel as if this is a safe place and that they understand where their kid is at and what's going on in the school each and every day. So with our committee, we've tried to do something each month to kind of give families an opportunity to come here. We started with our open house. We kind of restructured that. We didn't really have people coming to open houses where you followed your kid's schedule, and it was good for those that came. There's really good information that our teachers were giving out, but people just didn't feel quite as connected. So we kind of just flipped it on its head this year, a little last minute. So, for planning for next year, that'll be something that we look at. But we had everybody in the gym. We got food trucks here. We had some of our clubs. And so it's more kind of a corral, round table, go meet who you want to meet kind of family event. And then we recognized our fall sports kids with that as well. We had, with our Indian Education for All, we had, they went and did a bison hunt. Was one of our really cool events that they've done so far this year. And so we utilized some of the beef. I guess beef wouldn't come from bison. So we used some of the ground bison from that, and we made chili. And had a chili feed going along with our spring sports night. The new thing that's really coming on is our Start Your Day the Bengal Way. If you're free Thursday morning, starting about 8, come hand out some breakfast burritos and donuts with us. We're doing this once a month now. The first one was on a semester test day, and I think the kids just thought we were giving them treats every semester test day that week. And then we did it again last month, and you could kind of see like, what the heck is going on? Smiles were creeping on their faces a little bit, like, this is really cool. Why are we doing this? So I go, just want your day to start off great. And we had St. Peter's Hospital, had a few people here. We've had some of our parole officers for our juvenile ones. I've been here a few times to help hand those out. So we encourage anybody who just wants to come start your day great, to stop by, and help us welcome our kids that day. And then we're just continuing to try different events to make that happen. Then the other part of building community is trying to instill within our younger kids what it means to be a Bengal, and continue to build that desire to be a Bengal. And so through that, we have a couple classes. It's Pressinger's, just conveniently as a daughter who teaches at Bryant. And so once a month, her fifth period class has connected with her elementary course. They go over and they read to the kids, they draw, color, interact, do great things with them. We also have a peer mentoring class we started this second semester. They've also connected with some kids at Bryant and are doing things with them. Then this summer, right as soon as I started in this position, I had a senior approach me who wanted to start a Bengal Buddies program, like a club. So we have a club where we have about 8, 10, 12-ish kids who are out pretty much daily, working specifically with the class, most of them on the east side of the town, playing games, connecting with the kids, and getting them excited to want to be Bengals, to want to come to Helena. One of those other pieces we're going to do, Vigilante Parade, which I know hasn't been in the paper or anything lately. There's nothing going on with that. But last year, in an attempt with the 100-year anniversary to kind of reinvigorate that, we had an assembly. Started an assembly again where we teach about the history of the parade, get kids excited for the parade again, and open our registration that day. We invited Bryant last year. We're going to invite Bryant again this year. They come over and do that with us. About 5 of their classes make their own little floats. And so they do a little parade in the gym for us, and kind of have that excitement that way as well. So pretty much, it's been a main focus for us this year to build that community and try to find ways to grow that. So next, we're going to shift a little bit to the ACT. I have asked Megan Schulte, who is our intervention instructional coach. She kind of helps Ms. Tenighthouse and I with the data collection and overseeing of that. And she has a history of where we've gone with that. So I've asked her just to speak just briefly about kind of the history. She really didn't want to, so nice to her, but she's going to give us a little bit of the history on our ACT.
Well, because you tricked me and said I would only have to answer questions, not actually talk about it. It's fine. So with the ACT, I've been in this position for about 4 years. Before that, I was in the English classroom. So I've had a lot of, and I taught juniors. So the junior English class is probably one of the hardest they have to take, mainly because the kids actually realize there's life after high school and things start to matter, and they have tests and prom and all those fun things. So I've dealt with ACT for a very long time. Historically, what we've done to prepare the students is math will have done some practice in their classes, which is a little bit hard because they have a lot of blended levels. You have sophomores and juniors. What do you do with the sophomores if you do a whole ACT prep thing? Junior English, we do a couple practice tests for the multiple choice, and then we would have them do several time writes. Several of us would have the kids come in Monday and do a time write, come in Tuesday, do a different time write, come in Wednesday, do a different time write. By Thursday, they were ready to leave school, but they eventually realized that it was actually very helpful. So that's kind of been the historical way that we've prepared them. A couple of years ago, we focused as a whole school on writing, getting writing into every classroom, upping our percentage of writing that students have during the day. And we saw a correlated spike in our writing scores. It also corresponded to the ACT being typed. So that year we went from 48% of our students being proficient, which is a 7, to 59% of our students being proficient. And we were like, okay, we can't get too excited because it might just be because they typed the essay. But then next year it jumped again to 65% proficiency. So 65% of our juniors are proficient or above on our ACT. We also have had at least 2 students in the last 4 years score a perfect score, which means both readers saw no issues on their essays when they scored their essay. And that's less than 1% of the students in the nation.
So that's pretty amazing. This year, what we did, we wanted to, the biggest thing we tell our students is we can't teach the test because we don't know what's on the test. We know generally the categories that basically are just our standards, but we can help eliminate some of the unknown. This is the first big test that they've taken that's timed, that has real world consequences for some of them, real world benefits for a lot of them. And so we try to eliminate kind of the unknown. So this fall we did a practice run with 3 of the 4 areas. They did math, reading, and science, where they actually went on and did the practice test. We have access to that for free for the kids. And then we told them that they had access to lots of different practice throughout the year, which some of them have taken advantage of them, some haven't, just kind of typical teenagers. This spring, what we did is our core content areas generously gave up at least a class period to administer their content area practice test. So English gave the English test in a class, math gave the math test. Social studies actually doubled up and did both science and reading. And then we have the kids self-reporting their data, which is, it's kind of amazing to look at. So we've got pretty good numbers with what the test says their proficiency is predicted. I take it with a grain of salt because it's a practice test and the kids are in a big group with a lot of their friends and it's not restricted like the actual ACT. So if we look at those scores, we're hoping to grow in all 4 areas plus the writing again this year. So that's been the traditional route that we've taken with the ACT.
That's good. Thanks, Ms. Schulte. So in the brochure, you can see our ACT growth. We are consistently beating the state and consistently ranking in the top of the AA's with that. Again, just the hard work being done by our kids and our teachers to get our kids prepared for that. Shifting to the other side there with the AP and dual credit. To me, this is something that it's really, again, one of those spots that are getting our kids prepared for that next step, whether it be even with these collegiate credits and dual credits that kids are earning from that. It's not necessarily always those kids that are on a college track. This could be that career track, and it could be like our welding kid or somebody taking a drafting course that wants an apprenticeship that they're going to get after school. Some of these dual credits and what we're working with Helena College on to help with a lot of this is to demonstrate even 1 or 2 classes or some of those baseline classes. You don't need a degree necessarily for some of these things, but they're going to put you in a better spot no matter what you do to take them. And so we continue to push that. And we're lucky to have a great group of teachers who are certified to be able to teach those dual credit courses. And to have the great partnership with Helena College that we do for that. To me, is the dual credit numbers is the kind of smaller chart on the right-hand side. What I think is interesting, you look at 2020, 2021, which is really when that shift from East Helena happened, and we're post-COVID at that point. You have 268 individual kids enrolled. So now where we're about 300, 400 kids shorter, but we have a higher percentage of our kids taking advantage of that dual credit opportunity. And so I think part of that is the community understanding of that. It's that 1, 2, 3 opportunity, which is amazing. I don't know exact numbers, but we do have a great amount of students who are leaving here either with their entire freshman year done, or at least a semester of their freshman year done, which saves them money and gets more people in our workforce quicker because of that. The AP stuff helps with that as well. And when you look at, we're consistently on the AP honor roll, which looks at how many of our kids are taking the tests, and then how many of those kids taking it earn a 3 or above, which the 3 is kind of that measure that allows you to earn the collegiate credit in that class. And we continue in all of our subject areas to have a very high percentage of our kids getting that 3 or above. Again, testament to our teachers, testament to our families, testament to our kids, and the amount of effort that they're putting in to build that. Then finally, our action plan items. We've been lucky at Helena High to have an amazing school leadership team. Really, it consists of our department chairs within each department, but they continue to be incredibly active and very open to discussion and looking at the different data points and what can we do as a school to be better. And being able to have those hard conversations that we need to have in that situation. So each August, we meet and we come up with our goals for the year. I'm not going to read them, like I said to you, but really we focus in on our math, reading, and social emotional. The math and reading, we won't know. We kind of know if we're going to meet those goals, but we have to wait till that ACT is what we realize to see if that growth happens on those. But as we look at specific instructional goals or how we look at culture and climate with those SLT goals at the bottom, kind of what we've been talking about, we do want teachers out observing each other and seeing the great things that are happening in each other's classrooms. We have a very strong instructional framework. We call it our BEST framework, your beginning, engagements, skills and strategies, and our takeaways. We've focused a lot on the beginning of our lessons, our bell ringers. How are we focusing our kids at the start of a lesson? And we feel like we're doing a pretty good job with that now. So now we're moving into the E, which is our engagement strategies, and trying to gather our data through our walkthroughs on that to see where we need improvement. Our PLCs, the first Monday of the month are for all staff. And so our SLT does a great job of planning professional development during that hour for us to grow. Intervention wise, we're trying, we had some pretty ambitious goals. We thought we knew where we were at with a lot of things. Like we're just going to look at our research and get it done. And what we've done as we've looked this year is we realized we really need to focus in again on what is our definition of this, what is going on, where are we putting things in our pyramid. And so this is probably going to be a 2 or 3 year goal that we're working on and not probably get to where we wanted to at the end of this year, which is fine. And then family engagement is working on that increase in communication and approaches for them. So that's Helena High. What we're doing here. We appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is there any questions or comments that we have? Trustee McKee? Okay.
I'll be brief. My daughter goes here. Thank you to you and your staff for all that you do. She's thriving. So I appreciate it.
My kids did use it. So, I had a question for Ms. Hildy. I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. In 2 years, is she still here? Did you guys really go from 49% proficient to 65% proficient in 2 years? That is incredible.
Yeah, so do you want to say that out loud so that people in the back can hear that?
Yeah, so on our writing, we went over a 2 year span, we were 49% proficient, 48, and then grew to 65% proficient. That was before me. Yeah. And a lot of that too was from like our SLT and the goals that they had, and we saw some of that data. And there was a big push to make sure there's writing in every classroom, and it's not just an English teacher's responsibility to teach writing. Our social studies are doing a great job with that.
That's the other piece. The social studies curriculum revision has increased the rigor of reading and writing as well. So that is also, that's like the third leg of the stool.
Very cool. And I mean, that's probably everyone in this room knows, but the ACT is a required test to maintain. It's not just college applications. Every single kid in Montana takes the ACT. So I just did a little look because we're talking principal Kessler, like schools that have 51% poverty, pretty boosting ones like on the high, compared that to other states that also have the ACT as a statewide assessment. Helena High scores are above every single other state. I mean, it's like it's an outlier of success. And it's successful under any circumstance, but in its universe of kids who are overcoming poverty and academic achievement, it is an outlier. It's so good.
I would say a big, large piece of that is our teachers. We have an incredibly dedicated group of teachers in this building who truly care and understand the population that we're and they really don't care. Like, we're going to get you there. Let's do it.
Great question. I was gonna, going along those same lines as Trustee McKee, when I first got on the board, there was a lot of concern about the number of remediation classes that kids had to take when they went to college. So, I am so happy to see these really low scores. What do you attribute that to? Because I think both of our high schools, say 6 years ago, were struggling in that area. And considering that, you have a challenging population, that's really impressive.
Yeah, to that effect, Capital High scores, their percentages are just right with ours. And so there's been a lot of great growth in our district, I think with that. I think it goes back to the work we're doing with instructional framework, and I think utilizing having better conversations with data and being able to see that longitudinally where our kids are struggling, and then focusing our PLC discussions on what's going on in our class, what are we doing? Yeah, that's not working, let's try something new. And having a teaching staff that's willing to try something new. And that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well done. Any other questions? Just to remind trustees, Mr. Kessler in his first year, right? It seems that he has his maturity level. Yeah, he's pretty much a rookie although he's been here before, and I'll give him credit there, but he's done a really great job in his first year. But that doesn't happen by himself. There's two people behind us over here, Mr. Ninehouse, Mr. Peterson, also that support you in your efforts and support your staff, and you have an amazing staff. So it is really a great culture. It's a great team, and I thank you for stepping into this, following Mr. Dennis, which was not going to be easy. You've done a really nice job. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Principal Kessler. We're going to move on to the new business, and the first is the consent action items. Do I have a motion for the consent action items?
I will move that we include the consent action item for the teacher.
Motion by trustee Satchel, is there a second? Second by trustee McKee. Any board comments before we vote? Any public comments before we vote? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 6-0. Okay, action items. The first one is the approval of the SAC rate increases. There she is.
Voice this
It doesn't seem to be helping, so just make yourself comfortable.
Josh.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Kirsten Rausch. I'm the program director of the STAC program. Beginning in 1992, so we're one of the longest running and biggest licensed child care programs that are K through 5 in the state of Montana. And we're super proud of that and super excited about that. And so I also have one of my staff members here, Lisa, as you can grow, and she does all of our food program. We're part of the Child and Adult Care Program, which is a federally funded program. And information in your packets. And I'll have Lisa come up and answer any questions that you have on that. One of the requirements is that every year we present to the board, just letting you know that we still participate in the program. Right now, we're running about $6,000 of federal dollars in reimbursement each month. That doesn't completely, we're not, breaking even on that. We still spend a lot of our money for that program, but we do offer amazingly great snacks and food for kids in the afternoons. In some schools, depending on their need, we do a 2-component snack. And then some schools, we do a 5-component meal. And so that's every day in the afternoon. And again, we're running about 320-ish students a day right now. So we're very proud that we know that a lot of students don't have the full belly. Some are heading straight to track practice or, soccer practice and not having a chance to eat. And some go home to a spot where they don't eat until they come back to school the next month. So we one thing that we're tense about is just the change in possibility in federal dollars over the coming months and years. And so Lisa and I took a a lot of time to read and stay on top of some of those things, and just watching some of the changes. If any of those changes happen and we lose federal dollars, we'll certainly have to adjust how or where we go with food, for kids in young.
Especially.
Right, and as Lisa's saying, especially, and there's a note of that in, your packets there, milk prices alone have jumped 35 cents a gallon, at Costco even since last year. And, we're spending about $300 or $400 on each week, in additional costs of food. And so we've really noticed, those changes, and, impacted our program. So we're hoping to continue on, with that great care. So that's part of why I'm here today, is just to tell you about the food program. And certainly, I know that we've talked before you in the past about familiar with our food program. So if there's any questions on that, Lisa or I are here to answer any of those. And then I do have just some recommendations, just going forward with our tuition rates as well.
Any board questions?
Oh, okay, we're backwards. Apparently, I'm telling you about CACFP, and I'm supposed to really be telling you about rates right now as part of something. But there we go. We're melding it all into one.
We could just say that everything that I've prepared, I didn't really prepare for you. I prepared to celebrate our CACFP week, which was last week, and it was posted on all of our sites, and we are very proud to be part of that program. And that would be my report, so we can just skip that because it's all in front of you and you have all the numbers, and unless you have questions, that we can just be done and skip right to the next information that this one person has done.
I guess superintendent and one administration, I know we've heard that title and special ed funds will be transferred to the state. How about food? Have we heard about that yet? That's,
We were talking about that earlier. The federal, what's going on at the federal level, as Kirsten had mentioned, is really hard to put a finger on. There's things that are changing and then not changing and then proposed to change and it doesn't. So to put our finger on what's going on around the federal funding, Kirsten's obviously affected by that. SAC is affected. So are we. I reminded the community the other day that of our $105 billion budget, 8.6 million is in federal monies. And so we're trying to keep a pulse on it. Boy, that is just changing back and forth at light speed. So it's really difficult to understand how it's affecting us because it's you just can't corral that information right now. So it's difficult.
wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, so I mean, it could, as we were talking earlier, we're hopeful that it's not going to. Can't fathom an $8.6 million some sort of deficit in that, but anything's possible right now. And so we've got to be mindful of that. It is an opportunity for us to challenge for us to navigate the loss of those funds. And we're starting to put wrap our heads on it right now.
Well, most of those funds come from the USDA. Yesterday, it's announced that those funds are going to go to the cabin for the services. It's being very odd. And that could change. Yeah, but the party is super bad. But our youth program I'm talking about. And something like yesterday,
We are funded by federal dollars, but it is administered by justice. So it comes, the in our state is not those, but they have already cut some things for local food.
So partly just in that I bring that up is that, looking forward at our rates, certainly we are starting summer registration in this and coming weeks. Getting excited about our summer program that will operate this year at Central School. It'll be 9 weeks, and we are super excited about that. It's interesting. It looks like about every 7 years we hit a 9-week summer. And usually there are 10 weeks that we operate, 11 weeks of summer, and then a couple of days thrown in there depending on where the whole family falls. So 9 weeks summer at Central. I'm asking today to raise rates. Basing those really on, there's the Best Beginnings Child Care Scholarship in the state of Montana, and have been really following as they raise their reimbursement rates for care centers in the state of Montana, raising ours similar. And so they had an 8% increase from last year at this time. And so if you look down any of these columns, it's about an 8% increase for this year. So following right along with those. Barb and I had a great discussion the other day about raising rates for fall. These fall numbers are out in front of you, but again, if there is a change in those federal reimbursement rates for the child and adult care program, I may be back in front of you to ask for a different increase before the school year starts. But felt like, okay, let's try and get it, fall and then fall swoop, keep our fingers crossed that those federal dollars still come in. And so that's a little bit about where and how that took place. Really, if you look community-wide at the Y or Discovery Kids Zone, some of our other ones like the Athletic Club, Exploration Works, or some of the other child care centers or programs in town, we still are under almost all of those other programs as far as our tuition costs. And so we're very proud of keeping our rates low and affordable for all of our families. It's super helpful that we're in a school district building. And so we don't pay rent, we do help out utilities and pay into that. And so I think that's really helpful in keeping our rates low for our families. Anything else that I'm missing, Lisa, or you have all the questions on, or Barb, you have to add on?
Yes, indeed. This is really surprising. This site, can people use the Best Beginning Scholarship program, or is that just for under 5?
So Best Beginning scholarships are offered for any licensed child care center in the state of Montana. And like I said at the beginning, we are one of the bigger licensed child care centers in Montana. So we're super excited about that. I know that the YMCA has, in the last couple of years, they now also accept Best Beginning scholarships. And so I think that's a great thing, and a big shout out to them, is that we have more child care centers in Helena that are offering those scholarships.
What's that look like in the session right now for funding street for the next biennium? I mean, do you guys know where it sits?
Again, I think somebody said, day to day. I know that there were some, yesterday, there were some things put up in front of the session as far as just looking at, a lot of times when you think daycare or childcare, you just think up to 5, for the 5. And really SAC, and there's some other out of school time programs in Montana that really focus for, our K through 5 students. And so there are a couple of bills out there looking to help increase licensing for K through 5 and also increase some of the funding that comes our way. It's silly that, we have staff that they show up to SAC and we're offering K through 5 care. And one of the first things that we have to take online is infant specialists. We never have an infant come in the door unless it's a sibling or, a friend. But so there's kind of a disparity of what, childcare looks like in our state. And so some of those sessions are pushing towards getting some more open-mindedness about that.
To Barb's point about, it does look weird that it's going to be PHS because we don't know what that focus is going to be like for our food program. And if we will still get some dollars, or if it's going to, we don't know, different places. And we hope if it's one of those things that were to come from feds more to our state government, probably end up having to make a lot of noise to say, we're still gonna keep feeding school age kids.
I think it's worth reminding folks that the name said, but this is self-funded program. So school age childcare in our district is about providing low cost childcare for students who attend our school, but it's a self-funded paid for by parents, but also because they chase every funding stream they can to keep the prices down. The SAC team has been doing that for years. It's not a general fund or anything like that. So it's a wonderful thing. That's why they're always constantly having to adjust the rates when it gets to that. Because staffing just change, things change, funding sources change. I've been creative over the years about pulling in different funding streams or getting scholarships for parents. That kind of thing. So it's a great program.
We're also you can, I want to talk about the lessons, changing licensing.
Right, so, kinder sprouts are 4-year-olds. Our licenses right now are for 5 to 12-year-olds. And so, if we were to change to add in some kinder sprouts in the afternoons, we would have to change our licenses to accept 4-year-olds. And so what that essentially means, just in a short story, is right now, our 5 to 12-year-olds, the ratio is 14 students to 1 staff. And if we were to offer 4-year-olds, it drops down to 10 to 1. And so we just have to look at that staffing wise, increase staffing numbers. We threw it out last year to our kinder sprout families. And right now we serve 1 lucky 4-year-old at Rossiter Sac in the morning. And so we have expanded our license just for morning at Rossiter. And so he is very fortunate to be the one. Yeah.
Any further questions? Mine is more, just we're in really hard times right now. And we're budget wise in really hard times. And we also don't know what's coming down with the government. So I guess my question is, if we do vote this item for action, like what is the risk that we're taking? Do we need to talk about what would happen if the federal money didn't come in and whether the district could afford that, which I even hate to bring up because obviously this is something that's always been self-funded and we've always just passed right through. And perhaps I'm concerned about something that doesn't exist. So if anyone wants to jump in and talk about that, I would be really interested to hear.
I think that's a great point. I really do. And, Lisa and I have talked about it for a long time. We've been part of the food program for a long time and really have devoted a lot of how we operate for really getting high quality food to kids because it's important to us, important to our staff. And so really then, if there wasn't federal funding, how does that change? Do we not all of a sudden offer high quality food in the afternoon? I mean, that just feels like would break my heart. Especially for some of these families that really need that extra little bit. Or do we go out and try and find funding a different way? But it's a big question, I think.
At the end of the day, we choice faced with coming back and asking for rating increases. I mean, that's the answer. It doesn't have anything to do with general fund problems, school operation issues, so long as the program's ever going to operate. Right now, it's not operating within the general fund support or any other. I mean, it just would be, you'd have to come back and ask for rate increases or, increase your rate structure to a point where at some point it's no longer competitive or that would be the space you just, in my mind, get pushed into over time by increasing external costs.
Right.
Yeah, it's just hard that the board even has to ask these questions that certainly are not philosophical, but just, we have to protect our
our dollars at this point in time. So, it sounds like it's just something we could deal with in the future. It doesn't lock us in. And so, I would say, just go forward with the approval or, a motion for the update. Saying that, is there a motion to, for the approval of the staff rate increases?
There have one, I move that we approve, the second increases as presented.
Motion by trustee Cletus, is there a second? Second. Second by trustee Saturday. Any further board questions or comments before we vote? Is there?
My comment is just thank you for the good, really important work. Especially during these turbulent times to hang in there and, keep it all happening.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. Not only do we claim the title of being one of the biggest programs, but we really think that we're one of the best programs. We have fabulous staff and obviously fabulous people in this district that really support our program. And we've been through it without one. So thank you, and we appreciate it. And know that you're always welcome to stop by and spend time. It can be some of the most happy and fun times that you've ever seen in the afternoon. So thank you very much. And if you have any other questions or anything, Lisa and I, know how to get in touch with us. And maybe be happy to. Thank you.
Is there any public comment before we vote? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, action item number 2, consideration for approval of resolutions of intent to increase or decrease the non-voted levies.
Not a teacher, boys. Did raise 2 sons and have 14 grandchildren. So just let me know.
How many grandchildren? One more?
So the first 2 resolutions you have in front of you are resolution of intent to increase or decrease non-voted levies. So these are your permissive levies, tuition fund, transportation fund, and building reserve. I don't like the word intent. It's more of a we might. And as we've been talking, we really don't know where our world is at today. But if we don't pass these resolutions, we can't. So these are really ballpark figures based on some assumptions and likely will not be what we actually increase or decrease, but as close as we can get at this point in time. And if we don't pass these resolutions and notice it up by statute, we can't increase them. I don't make the rules.
Questions for Ms. Mickelson? All right, do I have a motion for the approval of the resolution of intent to increase or decrease the non-voted levies in the elementary district?
Chair, move we approve the resolution of intent to increase or decrease the non-voted levies for Helena Elementary School District number 1, based on the data that's developed here in the next few weeks.
Thank you, trustee. Do I have a second? I'll second. Second by trustee P. Any further questions before we vote? Any public comments before we vote? No. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Would it be 5? Because no high school. Oh,
They're 2 separate resolutions. One's elementary, one is.
yeah, 5-0. Thank you. All right, and the same thing for the high school district. You want to give us a presentation or the same thing?
Same presentation.
Same thing. All right, do I have a motion for action item number 2B?
Chair Thorne, I move we approve the resolution of intent to increase or decrease the non-voted levies for Helena High School District number 1, based on the numbers that come in. Thanks. Week, sir.
Motion by trustee, and do I have a second? Second. Second by trustee Satcher. Any further questions or comments? Any public comments before we go? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This one does pass 6-0. Okay, action item number 3, approval of elementary ballot language for levy propositions.
I'm gonna go ahead and combine 3 and 4 in my discussion, but it will be 2 separate. Well, very separate, as in 2 separate. So we agreed with the, county election office that we would have ballot language to them by March 28th, so they could start developing the language in their system. With respect to the general fund, elementary general fund operational levy, it's a projected number with a 3% increase, which hasn't exactly become law yet. So it's not set in stone, but I do think it will, and all indications look like the governor will sign the 3% increase, inflationary increase. And so that is what is calculated there for the levy amount based on that 3% inflationary. Those are the only variables that are included in the ballot language. And with that, we would request a $293,681,000 levy in the elementary. Running through the calculations, we couldn't ask for an operational levy in the high school. So we will have the county election administrator cancel that election. With the elementary, the effect on a $100,000 home is approximately $2.52 annually. $7.50 annually on a $300,000 home, and about $15.50 on $600,000. And that's reflected in the ballot language for the elementary general fund operation levy that you have in front. In addition to the elementary general fund operational levy, we will be requesting a technology levy in both the elementary and high school. And if you read the considerations, it's telling you all of the amazing things we can use that levy for. We'd like to increase the existing technology levy in the elementary by $1,979,500 annually for a term of 10 years. So right now we have a perpetual levy that would go away and it would become a 10-year levy. Have to be revoted every 10 years. The effect on and in high school, we would request an additional $870,500. The effect on $100,000 homes with an elementary technology levy is about $14.40 annually, and about $6.83 annually for high school. On a $300,000 home, it's approximately $43.21 annually in the elementary, and about $20.49 annually in the high school. And for $600,000 homes, it's $86.43 annually in the elementary and $40.99 annually in the high school. These are based on taxable values from August of last year, 2025, 2024. Taxable values will change. The dollar amount of these levies will not change. The number of mills will. And when the number of mills change, the effect of these homes change. So in reality, what it costs them annually, because we'll no doubt see an increase in taxable values, will be less. We have to estimate it for now, ballot in on time. Other information, election day is May 6th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. There are 3 open trustee positions. Currently, we have 4 candidates running. The deadline to file the oath of candidacy is March 27th, 2 days. And the deadline, if you miss that deadline, you can be write-in. And the deadline for that is April 1st. Any questions?
For newer trustees, excuse me, for our newer trustees, we are required to show a 100, 300, and $600,000 house. Sometimes you get to the point where does a $100,000 house exist? It's a statute that we have.
It is. It's,
My question was, I just want to be sure I'm clear about this. So we're asking for a levy for technology in the elementary district, the high school district, and then, we have a perpetual levy currently. It talks about this, later on down here. Does that perpetual levy continue? And this is in addition to that, or does that perpetual levy get replaced by what the new levy if it's passed?
So what happens is we run this levy, we add it to our perpetual levy. That amount is, if, assuming it passes,
Yeah.
right? We add it to the perpetual levy amount and it turns into a 10-year term.
Yes.
Oh, so the perpetual levy becomes not perpetual. That it's not that we give up the money that we gained.
Right.
Thank you. I wasn't clear on the way this is.
Current perpetual roll into the voted
Yep.
10-year
Gotcha.
full amount, and there will no longer be a perpetual levy. And if this ballot does not pass, the perpetual remains.
Okay, as a perpetual. Thank you. Yeah, for that clarification.
And the numbers, one other thing, the numbers that are listed on that ballot language represent the increases in tax rates with that new technology.
Yes. Thank you.
all right, seeing no further questions,
Just for folks that are, listening, this isn't a giant leap on the elementary side for the tech. Again, you're talking about what, a $560,000 perpetual levy at this point, or the ask is to the public to functionally bump that up by $200,000 and cut it back to 10-year term. So it's
more than that.
It's more than 200,000.
you would roll the 550 in, you
Yeah.
would combine the 590 on top of the 870, 560.
At the high school.
At the high school.
Right, that's the one I'm talking.
Yes.
The elementary's got a pretty big chunk. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the original levy, the current perpetual levy really is almost a 50-50 split. It is a 50-50 split, whereas that doesn't really reflect with the number of schools that we have.
Oh, right. No, that's what I mean. It's,
So it is different. Yeah.
yeah, that's the point behind all.
Yes.
okay, is there a motion for action item 3A, Helena Elementary ballot language in terms of funds to be raised? Thank you, trustee McKee, for the motion. Do I have a second? Second by trustee Cletus. Any further questions? Any public comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, the next Helena Elementary approval of ballot language for the technology levy.
Chair Catherine, I move that we approve the ballot language for the technology levy for the elementary, for the election.
Okay, motion by trustee Satchel, second.
Second.
Second by trustee Hindley. Any further questions before we vote? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Moving right along to the high school side, we have a motion for item action 4A, Helena High School approval of ballot language, the technology levy election.
Chair, I move approval of action item 4A.
Thank you, trustee McKee, for the motion. Do I have a second? Second by trustee Walsh. Any further questions before we go to comments? Any public comments? Seeing none, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, items for information, SAC and the Child and Adult Care Food Program.
They combine that.
We combine those
Yeah,
together.
they put them all in one go.
I thought we had it.
Efficiency.
Thank you. Number two, basics of performance contracting.
Mr. Barrow?
Thank you very much, Todd Barrow, Facilities Director. I want to introduce Brian Solon and his crew. They're going to give us a very quick briefing on energy performance contracting. I've been talking with the superintendent about this for quite a while, and we think it's a good option where the school district can do some energy saving upgrades to our facilities that don't cost us any money. And as we know, that's always on the top of our mind. So he's going to brief you again. I think he's talked to you a few times in the past, but this is a little refresher. And I think what it will do is reinforce the notion that this is probably a good idea for the district. But without further ado, Mr. Solon, thank you for being here.
Happy to be here. My name is Brian Solon, Amoresco. I realize that I'm the only thing standing between everybody and dinner, so we're going to power through this. I'm doing a Capitol High School basketball thing about 10 minutes ago as well. So I want to introduce Corey Talbot, our lead accounting exec in Montana. He handles kind of all our business development efforts in Montana. And Angie Wagner, she has managed construction for us for a decade and has moved into customer care and post-construction, which we'll talk a little bit later for us. So if you don't mind.
You can step up here too, Brian, if you want.
I'm a walker.
Yeah.
If you guys don't mind. So we'll talk a little bit about K-12 schools. So Amoresco has been active in Montana for about 15 years. So nationwide energy services company, we've done about $1.5 billion worth of energy construction at K-12 school districts and 50 megawatts of solar, primarily in battery storage. So we have a pretty vast experience. We've been active in Montana schools. We've done energy savings performance contracts in Kalispell and Polson, Deer Lodge, Anaconda, Livingston, Great Falls has done, Butte has done. So it's pretty common. I've been in front of this board probably 3 or 4 times. We get down the path and different things that happen, bonds, whatever, different priorities. And so here we are. So slide. Again, our team, this is kind of our core team, Corey and Angie here. We've got commissioning agents, we've got professional engineers, construction managers. This is kind of all we do is energy construction on existing buildings. So this is kind of the basics of energy performance contracting. It's in Montana Code. 94-1103 enables the statute, a slightly different contracting method on traditional design, bid, build, construction. So the basics of it are utilizing things that use energy, lighting, HVAC, that type of projects, evaluating the energy consumption they use, packaging a project that replaces those, and paying for that project with savings that those produce. Does that make sense? So on this slide, so before, let's say there's $100,000 you pay to Northwestern Energy in utility bills.
In which?
Yeah, it's a little bit more than that.
A little bit more.
Maybe let's call it $1 million. That's probably a little more in the ballpark. So we package a project that replaces lights. We do HVAC. We do some temperature control systems, boilers, whatever that might be. And it saves, let's call it 20%. So we save $200,000 a year in utilities. We utilize that savings and we finance against it to pay for that construction of the project. So typically there's no out of pocket. It's a budget neutral type. You're going to pay that money to Northwestern Energy anyway. You're tackling some of the deferred maintenance of the district that has been lingering without taxpayer impact. So you're doing that without impacting the taxpayers. That's an important thing that you can get done. And then after that debt is paid off, typically in that 15-year term, the savings just go to the bottom line of the district. So does that make sense? Close. Okay. Corey and Andrew are going to help me, but we're going to buzz through this fast. So savings from capital improvements we talked. They also are guaranteed. So we do a extensive audit to start the process. We audit every facility. We look at utility bills. We look at consumption over the past 3 to 4 years.
We know what you're gonna save, we package a project, and we guarantee the performance of that project. So, minimal capital savings, if there is capital injected through levy funds or whatever that may be, it can extend those, on projects you're doing anyway. Perhaps a boiler that doesn't pay for itself, but you inject some capital, you can also use that energy savings to fund other things in the district. So we can scroll on again. So typical measures, lighting, high efficiency motors, transformers, operational savings. We're not replacing lamps and ballasts in old fluorescent tubes. Natural gas savings with boilers, domestic water, and even water savings. Water savings can be a big one. Low flow fixtures with city water costs, that can be a very good measure. Go ahead. So a little bit about kind of the process. So you can see the standard project delivery. You design a project, you build it, you commission it if it's a mechanical project to make sure it's working right. That's a pretty typical kind of standard construction delivery process. If you look at the first part of this, before we do that, we do a comprehensive audit. So we don't know exactly what the project's going to look like. We audit the facilities, we look at all that. Energy consuming, and then also maintenance and operational items that we can fix. We design, we build, we commission it and make sure it's operating all right. Then we also provide training to the staff, because we're in it for a longer period than a traditional project. We have to measure and verify those savings for an additional 3 years after completion at a minimum. That can be extended to the life of the financing as well, but for a minimum, we have to verify, hey, we met those energy savings, we hit those targets for 3 years. The theory behind that is if we've shown that we've met it for 3 years, we've proven that it can operate that way, and we kind of turn the keys over. So does that make sense on that kind of measurement verification on that post-construction? And that post-construction piece is kind of what Angie heads up and helps kind of manage that owner interface and how we operate those parts of the building. So we work on the parts of the building that are all the moving pieces, the HVAC, the boiler, the lights, the operational parts of the building that often have the most complaints, and that have the most issues with the learning environment as well. So we did some work with Todd and helped put together some grants, some EPA grants. So we looked at 3 school buildings, and one of my guys noticed that we spelled elementary wrong. So I always got to point that out when we're in a school environment.
It's elementary.
Yeah, it's very elementary, right? So we started looking at those 3 buildings because they met the criteria for the grant. That was the reason for those 3. And we looked at, the energy cost, what we spent on natural gas, total cost, and then square foot. And you come up with this number, and that's an energy use index. It's like a miles per gallon rating for your car. Only it's the inverse. The higher it is, the worse it is. So that's the more energy used per square foot, basically. So if it's a high number, it's bad. If the lower the number, it's better. All 3 schools are kind of off the charts. They're way over. They use way too much energy that they should, especially 4Gs. And there's a pretty significant savings just in those 3 schools. We're talking on the order of 80,000 a year just at those schools to say packaging and energy projects. So it's pretty significant. And it also addresses, healthy buildings, HVAC, ventilation. We kind of we hit a number of birds with one stone. How we do that is packaging project financing. So we use the Intercap loan program. It's a good program. It's a variable interest rate. At times, it has been the lowest cost of money. Recently, it is not. We've been able to find fixed term loans that are under 5%, or depending on credit levels of school districts. So we actually will shop that. We'll talk to local banks. We'll give them the opportunity for that financing as well. And sometimes you can get we packaged with some quality zone academy bonds and actually got 0% financing for California School District. So 0 cost of money. So there's some different, we can do some private tax exempt lease options, and that's kind of the private side as well. So but all of that financing, again, is paid for with the energy savings that the project develops. So. Questions?
All right.
Questions, comments?
We were conceiving, we've done these projects, is that correct?
We've gotten
Maybe the
down
Okay.
the process. We've done some audits. We've never, I have a stack of binders on my desk from Helena School District. Probably more than any other school district, and yet we've never actually done new work in this district. So, yeah, we've been around and done a little work all over the state, just not here. So, yeah.
Questions? Linda?
Just for context or history, why haven't we gotten beyond the presentation for any historians? And the,
COVID, like we do everything?
Yeah, some of that was COVID, some of it was, a number of superintendents over the years. We get down the path and facilities people, you have change in leadership and you have different priorities and you kind of get down the path and it just changes. So it's just kind of the way.
So Brian and I have work packages before in other districts, and so that's kind of the familiarity of how this come about. I'm most interested in the lighting piece of our district, where a lot of these old fluorescent tubes need to be upgraded to LEDs. And speaking from experience, having LED adjustable, dimmable lights in your classroom makes a world of difference. Rather than what you're seeing right now. I know that the package comes together with HVAC, natural gas, water savings. That's all important, but I really am interested in CR Anderson 2 years ago, bulbs caught on fire, right? So we replaced that whole building with $600,000 worth of lighting, I believe, right, Todd? We have another one at Broadwater where those light fixtures are getting old. Most of our aging buildings have old lighting and I'd like to upgrade it, but I don't want to burden the general fund or build reserve funds. And so this is a really great way of moving down the line of upgrading our facilities that helps us manage it effectively in terms of costs. So I know it works. We just haven't been down the road far enough. Something always comes up or changing personnel. It makes sense for us to do this work. It just takes a lot of effort to get it going.
Is there like can you or Tim, do something that's pretty close to saying, okay, you guys can roughly guesstimate what you could do across the facilities we know we're gonna be open, we know we aren't gonna be changing, and then overlay that with the deferred maintenance nightmare that's in the master facility planning, or say, okay, this is a solve for at least this subset.
Absolutely.
Of the deferred maintenance.
The reason that I've been kicking the can on this a little bit since I've been in this position is because two things. One is we had a deferred maintenance report that I wasn't really able to prioritize because we also had a master facility plan that we wanted to coordinate. And I didn't want to put a bunch of money into a school that we're gonna
Because
turn
the
around.
deferred maintenance piece is part of the calculation.
Yeah, right. So I think we're at a point now where there's quite a few schools that I'm comfortable are gonna stick around for the next 15 years that we can then get return on our investments.
Yes, absolutely.
You know you're gonna, yeah, exactly. That's the point. You know you're gonna be in there.
Right.
Your demographics aren't gonna change. You have the ability to lock in for the time period necessary to do it.
Are the terms negotiable or those, terms of the loan as far as the link?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we would help facilitate the financing in the terms of the loan. So we would package that up in an RFP to incentive things. What term, 10 years, 15 years? Yeah.
So we used to use an intercap loan. In the day, that was roughly 2.2%. And now they're up to 5 or 6%. And so that's why Brian's talking about maybe shop a local and see if there's a finance, a bank that would be willing to carry that at a lower rate than what we can get. Used to be intercap loans in schools were kind of the match, but it's not the case now.
I also know DEQ is contacted me recently, said, hey, we're looking at doing some low interest loans for energy savings projects. Is that something you guys could be interested in? But yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And it's something we can combine
Absolutely.
with a performance contract. So we might even be able to get a little bit better rate too.
Yeah,
working through that program.
Our program, the statute falls under DEQ.
Right.
The same.
Yeah,
I think so. The last thing, Brian and I have spoke about this often, is that I'm resistant and hesitant to spend money for an audit that we may or may not use. In our financial scenario, it's difficult to justify spending money and you may not use the audit. But I think there's ways around that upfront cost of the audit.
We can, and so we don't, yeah, the audit has an upfront cost, but it's fairly minimal. And the reality is it's somewhat, so there is some buy-in from the district as well, that we're not just doing work for work's sake.
And it also helps me prioritize projects.
Yeah.
I mean, if we do it or not, I still have another data point that says, hey, look, Fort Georgians is way inefficient. That should be our next project we do. I wouldn't have known that.
Well, and they need it on their, I mean, that's the back end of their guarantee.
Exactly.
That's their baseline. You understand that you're getting a guarantee from these guys about how this looks over 15 years. They have to know what they're doing on the front end to make the guarantee work on their side.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
why that's the.
Yeah.
I mean, we also get the benefit out of it, you know what the landscape looks like, but that's just part of the structure.
Yeah.
Is you're also getting an improved product? Like our lights are very old, or is it just the bulbs?
No, I mean, a lot of flexibility there. Yeah, so I mean, cheapest and absolute easy, not easiest, cheapest way and most high would be to do strip kits and just replace lead lenses. It's not great. It's just not, you know, you want to put a dimmable fixture in, you want to take advantage of the opportunity to change it. Yeah. So drivers. Yeah, we have drivers, we can change color, we can change light levels. It just provides for much better.
In our older buildings, trustees, that they're on or off across. Maybe there might be two banks where you can dim one half or the other. These are adjustable where you can dim sections of your rooms as well, which for teaching purposes, is very important.
In a lot of cases, for instance, at Broadwater, that equipment is so old, we can't get replacement parts of it. You know, the diffusers are brittle. You touch them, they shatter in an elevator.
Yeah.
And it's like, just take the whole dang thing out and replace it with a new fixture. Sorry? Right, yeah, so.
Break and never.
Exactly.
I just saw the boiler room here. It's
Yes.
a one-way street with a lot of this stuff.
And the reason I brought that up is because when we were forced to replace the VR lighting, but a lot of positive feedback that it improved the educational environment, being able to see the screen better and dampen as a result.
There's that balance point of what you want to spend versus the energy savings it produces. So there, you know, we're gonna have some discussions on how that kind of lays out. But yeah, it's the reality is.
I saw a slide that said, I think it was Kalispell. Do they issue bonds or is this a different program?
So Kalispell did Quality Zone Academy bonds, which is a program that the first trip tax cut killed. And so
It's not available.
it's not available.
Oh.
No. There was quality education
Yeah.
bonds, and so we coupled that with local financing, and basically that bought down the interest rate to zero. So yeah, there's a lot of methods. Unfortunately, the federal programs are a little bit up in the air right now.
What are the private leases as a finance instrument? What is the district leasing? Is that
Basically,
tied to actual hardware that's going in?
It's a tax exempt lease purchase on the hardware.
Okay, that's
exactly it. So it's basically leasing the equipment, and we deal with, we have national banking relationships that will compete with the local to make sure we get the best deal for that as well.
Yeah.
All right, it looks like it's time for the banquet.
Yeah, I better also. Right.
Sorry it took so long. Thank you very much.
Quest is gonna be run lines.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks to your team for being here.
All right, in order, some comments before we move.
I got one.
Yes.
Just in regards to comments, we landed on a date for the 9150 hearing, recommendation number 4, future Hawthorne. So that hearing is April 9th, 5:30 Lincoln Center. We'll do that in the PD Center. I know that we put that out. I just want to put it on the record as well.
Any further questions or comments? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you.